Yeah, the I Am movement and the silver shirts, yeah, and Walter Pelly and the whole thing. I mean, that doesn't surprise me because the first time I heard this story about the little alien reptile who lived under the pyramid at Giza, it came from a Navy intelligence worker,
You think that they'd
CIA.
You think that they'd have better things to do with their time?
Yeah, well, this guy claimed that, and all he was doing is repeating the stuff. He had the documents with him, which on contract for Wright-Patterson, he was rewriting for American distribution. And these documents, what they were, was the Ostara documents that were the basis for the Thule-Gesellschaft in Germany. They were originally created by Father Joseph Lanz, who later became Georg Lanz von Liebenfels and founded the new religion called Order of the New Dawn, also known as Ostara, which later became Ashtar, or Ostara, when this guy, Hundley, rewrote it for the CIA. Then it became known as the Ostara religion. The Cheneys led that group, and it still exists. This Mrs. Cheney is still alive, but her husband apparently has already passed away. But now we know it as the same thing that we see on the what is it called, the Stargate SG-1 series. It's based on that same thing. Now
that's true, and you have the lizard character who reveals
all they do is they take an ancient religion that's based on some folk mythology about animals, and all of a sudden that snake becomes this alien serpent who lives under the Great Pyramid at Giza. And
it never ends.
So all that stuff is in that Stargate stuff. It's now known as the Ashtar Command, too. That's
I think I've seen that in our local New Age bookstores in the used section.
But it's a Nazi religion, and it's the basis for the Thule-Gesellschaft.
Here's something that we might want to take a look at as far as Brother Philip. This is an interesting mention of international bankers in the United Nations, which I thought was quite ironic in some respects. The United Nations must collapse because that which you read from the Nostradamus forces is true. The warlords, the international bankers, will use the United Nations to form their super government. This will not be. There are no Christ forces in the United Nations. That does not mean that there are not some good people who are in the United Nations, but the organization itself is a center using gullible people. I say it is a demon-controlled and must go down. The Master has said, it is written in Corinthians by our beloved Paul, all forms of authority and power must be put down before I come. And the United Nations fits that category. Now, you'd think that these characters who, pretty much are United Nations cheerleaders would have a little nicer things to say about the United Nations.
Well, the strange thing about it is the way I can think about it is I believe that the United Nations is actually a pre-planned continuation of the Third Reich. And
you feel there's a connection?
Yeah, definitely. And I believe that, if you looked at the Nazi ideas, they were divided. There was one group that wanted it. They were kind of like the Trotskyites and the Stalinists, The Stalinists wanted to rule from Mother Russia, and the Trotskyites wanted an international communism, truly international communism. Well, the Nazis, some of them wanted a nation state from Germany, while the others wanted an international Nazi state. And the idea was national concentrationism, and that appears to be what they're doing. Look at what they're doing in Kosovo. They're purifying that area, driving out all the Serbs, so they have a purely a racially pure group there. And meanwhile, the Serbs will be over here, and everybody's
getting... So the ethnic cleansing is being accomplished by
it's basically just separate everybody so they can create frictions when they want to control everything.
Sure. And it doesn't hurt to have one of the the biggest mines in the world, the fourth largest, right there in Kosovo, which is ironic. I'm sorry, the name escapes me right now, but
they have minerals there.
That's in the open literature. You
can
read
I feel like the real value of that area is ancient. That is a pathway, a land bridge, a pathway between Asia and Europe. And if the Chinese ever want to conquer Europe, they'll come right through there, the land army. You can't conquer people with aircraft. You have to have a land army.
Right, you have to hold the ground.
And if they've got those Albanians who have always been pro-communist, they've always been pro-Chinese, they've never really been in with the Russians, even during all the communist years of the Soviet regime. They've always been tighter with the Chinese, and it looks like they're creating a pathway for the Chinese army to conquer Europe. That's just one theory, but that's a possibility.
Well, a lot of people neglect to look at the strategy of these global events, and I think it's prudent to do so sometimes. One last comment I'd like to make about our friend Brother Philip here, up in the corner here. We have an interesting little symbol. Maybe you'd like to comment on how that...
That's one of the disguised forms of the all-seeing eye of God that you see on the dollar bill. The pyramid with the eye.
Yeah.
And the triangle with the dot, and that was the symbol. The triangle with the dot in the middle was the symbol used on the P2 project. And of course, von Braun was a Prussian member of the Masonic lodges in Prussia, and that goes back to the Prussian Illuminati, and that was the symbol used in that project, that P2 project.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, we see coincidences everywhere, and of course, if you see in the lower corner here, we have
the Ankh, the
Ankh.
Egyptian Ankh built
Sure.
into there,
Yeah.
and
I'm sure that was just coincidental, as most things are.
well, you see, I believe that the people that designed this stuff are these old Nazis from the Ahnenerbe who studied all this ancient history and stuff, and that's who the CIA hired. At the end of I say hired, they formed the whole CIA around them. They were the nucleus of the American CIA and the National Security Agency. As a matter of fact, the name Reichssicherheitshauptamt means National Security Agency Division 6.
How about that?
And the Division 6 of the Gestapo was the highest level area that dealt with this flying saucer technology.
So they traded in their jackboots and put on suits, and everything's all better now.
Now we've got, all this stuff to keep us mesmerized. The whole idea was based on a mass psychology program that was dreamed up by the Rockefellers and their psychologists. And when they chose Hitler to lead the German people, the idea was to stretch the credulity with paranormal stuff so that the public would accept the big lie. And of course, this stuff is credulity stretching.
Absolutely.
See? And it makes you really weak in the head. So when the government says something, you don't have any idea what they're talking about.
Sure. I noticed one more thing peeking out in the corner here is another one of their fun little symbols. Just thought I'd throw that
Circle
in.
with a dot.
Yeah, that is. I've seen that in Masonic text as well. So
it's really a sun symbol.
Sure.
And that was big with the Nazis. And of course, you've got the rest of that stuff is just a bunch of mystical stuff thrown into.
Again, another interesting aspect of this thing was if we go back to Lonnie Zamora's sighting, the design that he drew that he saw on the side of the ship was very similar to this.
Well, I show a number of these little things in the book, that 4 or 5 of them. I think I have them in there in this new edition too, of the different symbols that they used that have been seen on flying saucers. Now, the saucer that I saw in '53 didn't have any. I didn't see anything in the way of insignias on it at all.
Probably still a prototype.
And it looked like a very prototypical type of thing, because I've never seen another ship quite like it, except the one that was photographed by Willem Reich up in Rangeley, Maine.